outgoing Chairperson of the African Union, President Mohamed Ould Abdel Aziz, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Honorable Ministers and Commissioners, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends. Let me at the outset express my deep appreciation and gratitude to you, to Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, for the honor and trust you have bestowed on the government and people of Zimbabwe and on me personally, by electing me to preside over this august body. With the full knowledge of the onerous responsibility that lies ahead, I humbly accept your collective decision. I do so confident that I can always count on your full support and cooperation in the execution of the important mandate you have given me. Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, allow me also to express my sincere thanks and appreciation to the government and people of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia for once again extending to us the usual generous and exceptionally warm hospitality that we have become so accustomed to during our visits to this great country. I also wish to take this opportunity to thank and commend Your Excellency, President Mohamed Ould Abdel Aziz, for the able and professional manner that you steered our deliberations in the past year with. I will certainly draw on Your Excellency's experience and advice in the year ahead. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, more than 5 decades ago, I had the unique privilege as a representative of my organization, a liberation movement then, to attend the historic occasion of the founding of the Organization of African Unity in 1963, here in Addis Ababa. It was indeed a momentous occasion at which Africa decisively took destiny into its own hands. I still recall quite vividly the palpable collective resolve, dedication, and commitment of our forebearers to unite and free our continent from the twin scourges of colonialism and poverty. Our freedom and the political and socio-economic progress we have thus far attained are ample testimonies of the correctness of our forebearers' vision. Excellencies, Africa has come a long way since then. In 1999, at Sirte, Libya, we transformed the OAU structures into the African Union, this in order to take into account the current realities of our continent. We have also taken steps to strengthen the essential building blocks for greater African unity. Along the way, we have fashioned for ourselves very comprehensive and timeless programs, among which are the Lagos Plan of Action, the Abuja Treaty, and the New Partnership for African Development, NEPAD. Furthermore, we are now at the threshold of launching for ourselves and future generations yet another framework in the form of the 50-year Agenda 2063. As we move forward with this noble agenda, we must emulate and draw inspiration from the principled stand and selfless sacrifices that our forebears made to bring us a strong and united Africa that we are so proud of today. We call for renewed boundless zeal, commitment, and dedication in implementing programs and projects that we have set ourselves in the various political, social, economic, and security sectors. Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, during my tenure as chair, I will deliberately provoke your thoughts to pay special attention to issues of infrastructure, value addition and beneficiation, agriculture, and climate change in the context of Africa's development. Numerous studies have pointed out that the lack of physical infrastructure and interconnectedness in Africa has hampered economic development. Our roads, rail, air, and sea route networks are not sufficiently developed to stimulate intra-Africa trade, investment, and tourism. We need to continue and perhaps redouble our current collective efforts in this sector. The road and power projects that we are developing are a positive step in our quest to improve the African infrastructure. We therefore need to work and coordinate closely those partners who are committed to developing our infrastructure as envisaged in our program for infrastructure development in Africa, PIDA. Given that the continent is rich in mineral resources, and resources should be seen to contribute more meaningfully to Africa's development, they are our wealth, and we must guard against their being exploited for the benefit of others. While we continue to exploit the mineral resources, we seem not to have paid sufficient attention to their value addition and beneficiation. If the present practice of exporting our minerals in their semi or raw form continues, Africa will continue to have people without employment who languish in extreme poverty. Since the majority of our people depend on the land for sustenance and livelihood, we need to ensure they have access to the land and that Africa's vast agricultural potential is fully harnessed. The land reform program that my government embarked upon since the year 2000 was precisely meant to achieve this. If, in the first place, not to displace colonizers and ensure that our people, Zimbabweans, assume the ownership of that land. That land was precisely meant to achieve this, notwithstanding the practical demonization that my country has endured from those who had selfish and vested interests in our land. The positive impact the program is having on some sections of our farmers has vindicated us. Once it was said, oh, the Africans are not going to use the land properly. But I tell you, our production in the tobacco sector, for example, has by far surpassed levels attained by former white farmers. Sadly, climate change continues to threaten agriculture on the continent. Since we are the most vulnerable as a continent, it is imperative that we actively champion our interests within the framework of the United Nations climate change negotiations. In addition, we need to continuously take the necessary mitigation measures as advised by our own experts. Your Excellencies, I am alive to the urgency with which we should together continue to strive to confront the ills that beset our continent. As we look ahead, the African Union should continue to endeavor and double its efforts in bringing about sustainable peace and security on the continent. We are disheartened by the turmoil in Libya, a key member of this august body. Violence in that country has reached unacceptable levels. In the Central African Republic and the Republic of South Sudan, communities that had lived peacefully together for centuries are now torn apart. Add to this the recurrent disturbances in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo, which have taken a heavy toll on human, national, and regional resources. But on a positive note, we highly commend the African Union and ECOWAS for handling in a peaceful manner the transition in the Republic of Burkina Faso. We also commend the Southern African Development Community, SADC, for the expeditious and successful manner in which it has handled the recent disturbances in the Kingdom of Lesotho, as indeed also have handled the situation of Madagascar. May I at this juncture observe that the continent is not completely free, for as long as our brothers and sisters in Western Sahara remain under Moroccan occupation, we are not totally free. We call on the United Nations to implement all relevant resolutions requiring the holding of a referendum on self-determination for the Sahrawi people. I have talked about this to Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and I apologize for having omitted acknowledging that he is amongst us. He's a great friend of ours and has become a great friend of mine as well. We have invited him to come to our region. Our failure to complete the decolonization process in Western Sahara would be a serious negation of the ideals that our founding fathers fought for and bequeathed to us. Ladies and gentlemen, the scourge of terrorism and all its attendant evils threatens all our gains achieved since 1963. In the coming year, we therefore should deliberate and find lasting solutions to the scourge of terrorism, the loss of innocent lives, and the destruction of property inflicted by terrorists recently in the Cameroon and Nigeria. That is intolerable. I therefore advocate that ways and means of containing and eventually eradicating terrorism be found soonest. Your Excellencies, as we meet here, Africa is in the throes of another scourge in the form of the Ebola virus. I am, however, heartened to observe that a lot of ground has already been covered in combating the epidemic. We stand firm with our brothers and sisters who are directly affected as we fight to contain and finally eradicate the Ebola scourge. I also take this opportunity to express our gratitude to the member states, cooperating partners, corporate bodies, civil society, organizations, and individuals who have joined efforts in battling Ebola. Your Excellencies, the people of Palestine have suffered callous murder and territorial displacement, and yet the so-called champions of human rights in the international community continue to block unashamedly every effort towards the creation of a viable Palestinian state, existing side by side with the state of Israel. The African Union should fully support the Palestinian God-given quest for statehood, based on the pre-1967 borders and membership of the international organization, including their right to be a member of the International Criminal Court. Your Excellencies, as SADC Chairman, allow me also to take this opportunity to share with you our efforts towards meeting the goals of our regional organization. In SADC, we have adopted several economic strategies to propel the sub-region to greater heights, mindful of our role as a building block towards the African Union. The economic transformation strategy we have crafted is anchored on leveraging the region's diverse resources to attain sustainable economic development. This strategy encapsulated in the Regional Indicative Strategic Development Plan and the Strategic Indicative Plan for the Organ on Politics, Defense, and Security, which entails adding value to commodities. To adding value to commodities and the beneficiation of our minerals. This should bring about industrialization, which as a result should catapult the region to a higher level of development. We have agreed at summit level to dedicate an extraordinary summit to deliberate on this important strategy. We will be meeting in Harare in April this year to deliberate on these issues. Your Excellencies, as you may recall, during the 23rd Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the Union held in June 2014 in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, we made a landmark decision there. And before I get to it, I must here thank Equatorial Guinea for having agreed when chances were that we would fail to host our soccer event. I want to congratulate them on taking the burden to host the event. And this is a country, small country, they used to call it Fernando Po. As we were taught geography in school, we were actually finding it difficult to place it on the map. But now it's big enough. We have made it big enough. That's what the Unit of Africa has done. And as fortune would have it, and they are not only the ones who have had this recent fortune, Providence has provided them with oil. And others also have been discovering oil, 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 which the blind eyes of colonialists could not see. God bless. It was the work, the handwork of the Almighty. We thank Him for it. For sure, African resources should belong to Africa and to no one else except to those who we invite as friends. Friends we shall have, yes, but imperialists and colonialists no more. Africa is for Africans. Let us sing. I was going to say as during the 23rd Ordinary Session of the Assembly of the Union held in June 2014 in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, we made a landmark decision to declare 2015 as the year of women empowerment and development towards Africa's Agenda 2063. The theme offers us a great opportunity as Africa to strengthen our initiatives and to consolidate the gains we have made in the area of gender equality and women empowerment. It also strengthens our resolve to ensure that our commitments to gender equality, as enshrined in the protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, on the rights of women in Africa, and the Solemn Declaration on Gender Equality are effectively implemented. Cognizant of the importance of this theme, we have set aside the 2015 June African Union session to fully deliberate and develop this theme. It is now, Your Excellency, my singular honor and pleasure to declare the theme, namely, an Africa where development is people-driven, unleashing the potential of its women and youth, officially launched. And with that, I thank you.